Worth Memories Museum in groups. It is Tuesday, 14th, January the 14th. Let me see if I can find the live feed. We are live on YouTube at Fort Worth Memories. There we go. It's cold outside, but it's going to warm up pretty good into the 50s or high 40s. So today is Tuesday, January 14th. And we're going to share it. And share it to memories and live videos. To memories and live videos. Okay. Marquita's in, Lisa's in, and I'm in. I didn't even watch that football game last night. I fell asleep. Who won that? Ricky's in. Ricky Burgess is in. Debbie's in. I don't know if I'll be able to. Who won the football game last night? The Rams won 27-9. The other NFL news is that field goal Mike McCarthy is no longer the Cowboys coach. I think Jerry's finally said that was the truth. It's hard to get a straight answer out of Jerry. Brittany's in. Okay. Good morning to everybody. It is 7:01. HEB Groceries is looking to hire 600 more people. Larry's in. Good morning. Greg and Don are in. And our Cleburne group is in and riding. Let me see if I can get that camera to where. Now. Okay. Don't know where we're eating yet. I hadn't figured that out. The rest of this week, the temperatures are going to get up to, high 40s and low 50s. And then next week, from Sunday through Wednesday, I don't think it's going to get above freezing. Maryland's in. In fact, let me look and see what it says. It's 31 right now. Today is 55, Wednesday 56, 60 on Thursday, 63 on Friday, 55 on Saturday, and 35 for the high on Sunday, 31 for the high on Tuesday, or on Monday, and 33 for the high on Tuesday, and then Wednesday it gets up to so we got 3 bad days. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday it's going to start coming back up. the weather this year is not conducive for detailing cars. Diane's in. Wow, 4 days in a row. Good morning, or 5. Will there be any opening question? Will there be any merchandise for Larry's kids? Yeah. In fact, I haven't checked with the comptroller, but I think it's already been ordered. T-shirts and long sleeve sweatshirts like what I got on, and it'll be a black. I think we decided on black shirts and sweatshirts. Hold on, I just got a message from somebody. I think it's from Rex Benson. Yeah. We are opening our doors officially Wednesday at 4 p.m. We will be open from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. this week. We plan on opening lunch service up next week, the 20th. Here we go, yeah. So we spread the word. Rex's Bar and Grill opens up Wednesday at 4 p.m. And so then they're going to be back open 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. this week. We'll open for lunch next week on the 20th at 11 a.m. Good, that's when I'll be over there. Okay. Got that deal done. Back to, yes, so there will be t-shirts and sweatshirts, black with white lettering. Bill's in, Paul's in, Diane's in. Good morning to everybody. Stay warm. Randy's in. Okay, our Cleveland group. Okay, she's going to be on the, David is in. Good morning. Tell us some facts about the JFK assassination that we might not know. Wow. Okay. To start with, my uncle Jack White was the photographic expert on the Warren Commission. Jack graduated TCU. He went to Carter Riverside, graduated TCU in 1949, and he and a bunch of other graduates from TCU opened up Witherspoon and Associates Advertising. Jack was, at the time of his death, was recognized as the utmost authority on black and white photos in the world. He is the person that proved the backyard photo with Lee Harvey with the gun and the rifle was fake. He told me that the shadows did not match up, so it was doctored with. It was harder to change photos back in the 60s than it is today. Today you can do it with an iPhone and an app, but so that's my bona fides. Plus, I've researched the assassination since it happened, basically. On November 11th of 63, just 2 weeks before the president was killed, he laid a wreath on the tomb of the unknown soldier at Arlington National Cemetery. 2 weeks later, he was buried there. Jackie very rarely went on any of his campaign tours, but she chose to go on that one and was advised not to go. In fact, Jack Kennedy was advised not to go. There was a lot of hostile folks here in Texas. The morning of the assassination, President Kennedy's mother, Rose Kennedy, played golf in Hyannisport with a friend of mine who I met when Brad Corbett owned the Rangers, Jimmy Pearsall. He was her neighbor. He lived in Hyannisport, Massachusetts, and she played golf with him that morning. Ron is in. Jeannie is in. Paul Landis. Okay, so the bullet that was recovered, that was found on the gurney at Dallas Parkland Hospital, everybody said, well, how did that bullet get on a gurney at that hospital? Paul Landis, one of the Secret Service agents that was in President Kennedy's security detail, found the bullet lodged in the back seat of the limo, of the open-aired limo, and carried it with him and put it on the gurney. Why would a Secret Service agent do that? You're tampering with evidence of the probably one of the most studied murders ever anywhere. So I've never figured that story out. He was never reprimanded by the Secret Service for that. So that was kind of screwy. Jackie took her wedding ring off, put it on the president's finger, and the world was told that it was going to be buried. He was going to be buried with her ring. That's false. Just before the burial, a Secret Service agent took it off and gave it back to Jackie. The pink outfit that she was wearing, she refused to take it off, and her quote was, I wanted, Ron is in, Gloria is in. Her quote was, I want everyone to see what they've done to Jack. That pink outfit is in the National Archives. It's never been cleaned, and it's at the family's request. And why this date, I don't know. They do not want that to be seen publicly, her dress, until the year 2103, which is another, 80 years? The funeral day was November 25th, and that was the third birthday of John Jr. He was 3 years old. Jackie planned the funeral. Edna is in, Gloria is in. Jackie planned the funeral to be modeled after the funeral for Abraham Lincoln. That's why the casket and the walk, and in fact, Jimmy Carter's funeral that we just had was also modeled after that same funeral procession. Jack Kennedy was the first Catholic president. What else? The odds of the people closely associated with the assassination, Jack told me, Jack White, were like 3 trillion to 1 for all of those people that are thinking about how many of them died so quickly. One of the strippers that worked for Jack Ruby and then worked with my dad and them over here on the highway was Little Lynn. She lived in River Oaks. On the day of the day that Jack Ruby killed Oswald, and also that was the first public shooting murder caught on live TV. Jack Ruby had this little dog that he, loved this little dog. Little Lynn had called Jack the night of the assassination, and Jack had closed the the two clubs, the Carousel, and he had another club called the Vegas Club. The Vegas Club was not a strip joint. It was a where there would be maybe 40 chairs on the wall, up against the wall, and ladies would be there, and they'd have a number, and you could pay, I think, $1 to get 10 dances. To dance, slow music, whatever. So Jack had closed down both of his clubs. Little Lynn called him and said, Jack, I've got to have some money. I don't have any money. You've closed the clubs. And so he said, okay, Lynn, I'll go to Western Union in the morning and wire you $25. I've seen a copy of the wire transfer. It was actually $20. So Oswald was supposed to be transferred at no later than 10 a.m. that morning, that Sunday morning. The wire transfer was stamped at 11:15 or 16. Western Union was on the same block as the loading garage for the Dallas police station. Jack had his little dog with him. If he knowingly was going to go kill Oswald, which I don't know how he would have known the time, because Oswald was supposed to have already been transferred, he would have never taken that dog with him. That's a fact. But Jack had his dog with him. He always carried a gun. He walked out of the Western Union and looked down 2 blocks down the street and saw all these TV trucks and a lot of action. So he walked. It was on the same side of the street. He walked 2 blocks. They originally were going to move Lee Harvey in a armored car. When they started backing it down the ramp, there was a air conditioning or some kind of AC duct that was hanging down, and the armored car would knock it off. So they were pulling the armored car out. The 2 police guards that were guarding that ramp were directing traffic, and Jack just walked right in. Of course, they all knew who Jack Ruby was. He gave all the police, you could get into the Carousel, that was the strip club, free, and usually if they wanted a drink, they could get a drink. Barbara's in, Tom's in. So there's that little tidbit. I'm trying to think what else. I'm of the opinion that the people often ask me who I think killed him. There was a list a mile long. The Mafia definitely had something to do with it. The 3 guys on the grassy knoll definitely had something to do with it. Woody Harrelson, or Charles Harrison's father, was on that grassy knoll. The pro-Cuba, the against Cuba. I have no clue. The school want me to teach history. But at that time, the gambling in Dallas-Fort Worth was controlled by Benny Binion, who my dad worked for, and Carlos Marcello out of New Orleans. So they naturally, like I say, everybody wanted Kennedy. There's another good thought that at the time, I think Lee Harvey was delusional anyway. Lee Harvey's idol or hero was Fidel Castro at the time, because he had already come back from Russia and he went to Mexico, and they couldn't find him for a month. I can tell you where he was. He was washing dishes in San Antonio at the Cellar. Worked for Kirkwood at the Cellar. So anyway, he resurfaced. The actual planning of it, a lot of people say it was done here or there. I think that it came down to one of the meeting places was Campese's in Dallas. Uh, your mom knew Benny? Yeah. So here's another aspect. When they got back from Dallas, Johnson, who was then the president, he was sworn in 90 minutes or 99 minutes after Kennedy was pronounced dead. President Johnson said, I've got to sign a bill before we go to bed, and I need 2 witnesses. The bill he signed reversed the pullout of the soldiers from Vietnam. So what area would have benefited with the war continuing on? It's right here. Bell Helicopter, LTV, General Dynamics, all of the Metroplex has a vast coalition of folks that build military hardware. So that's just some of the things. I mean, it was really. I really don't think Jack Ruby was paid to silence Oswald. I don't believe that theory. I think Jack Ruby was also delusional, and the fact that he said, I wanted them to know that Jews have guts too, I believe that. He loved President Kennedy and Jackie, and he didn't want her going to have to come to a trial because it was not planned. Oswald was already supposed to be gone from the Dallas jail by 10:15 at the latest. Ruby killed him at 11 something. And like I say, he would have never taken that little dog. He would have made sure that little dog was taken care of, because he would have had to have known that there was no way out after he kills Oswald. So, but you can go on YouTube. My uncle's Jack White /JFK. He's done a lot of. Him and Jim Mars were the 2 biggest conspiracy theorists in the country. 2 of them. They traveled all over with these theories, and like I say, Jack was one of the photographic experts on the Warren Commission. Now, the Warren Commission also, in my opinion, was all trumped up. Warren, who was the Supreme Court justice, he didn't want no part of it. They all knew it was a whitewash, but they did it anyway. Johnson had to have known about it. In my opinion, he had to have known what was going on. The reason they picked Dallas, in my opinion, they were going to do it in Florida 2 or 3 weeks before, but they couldn't get all their players in place. The CIA was definitely involved in it. Allen Dulles ran the CIA. Jack Kennedy had told Dulles 30 days before, when I get reelected, I'm disbanding the CIA. He told Dulles that, and Dulles was the head of the CIA. So the CIA stood down. People say there was all of these open windows. Well, naturally, there was no air conditioning in those buildings in 1963. So all of those windows, that Secret Service could have never closed all of those windows. I mean, the people in those buildings would have suffocated. So that's, but the grassy knoll, Charles Harrelson was there. If you go on the Freedom of Information Act and research all of the memos between J. Edgar Hoover and different CIA operatives, you can tell that there's a trail. Hoover was in it. Hoover hated the Kennedys, especially Bobby Kennedy. But Johnson hated the Kennedys. He hated LBJ. There's also been released with the Freedom of Information Act. Back in those days, all the telephone conversations from the President of the United States were recorded. And you can pull up the conversations between Bobby Kennedy or even Jack Kennedy and J. Edgar Hoover, and then conversations between Hoover and some of his aides, he would openly say, hell, I hate that guy, after he hung up the phone, and would tell Bobby and them and Jackie too. He said, "Oh, I'm here to help you," and all of that. That was all a put on from LBJ. LBJ was in on it. So that's all just my opinion. But did what? The day of the burial. That was John Jr.'s third birthday. November 25th, 1963. Whereas he's buried at Arlington National Cemetery. Jackie's buried next to him, and two of his children are buried in the same plot. They will not show. The family had requested back then in the 60s that the pink outfit that Jackie, the Chanel pink outfit she was wearing, which has never been cleaned, and I would imagine by now where the blood stains were is eaten through the fabric. I've talked to people about that archive clothing, but the family requested that it not be seen publicly until 2103. Why they picked that year, I have no idea, but that's still, 78 more years from now. None of us will be here. Peppo will still be here, but none of us will. Yes, Rex just messaged me. They're going to open officially Wednesday at 4, and it's going to kind of be a bar the rest of this week. Then next week they'll start opening for lunch at 11 a.m. We're going to go over and they invited me to the soft opening last night, but hell, I'm already asleep by the time they do that. The wedding ring, her wedding ring, was placed on the president's hand, on his ring finger, and everybody says it was buried with him. That's not true. She had it retrieved by a Secret Service agent. The casket was closed. My mother said it was open. I don't care what your mother said, it was closed. Part of his brain, yeah. Supposedly it was in a jar at Parkland, or at Andrews Air Force Base, and since it's been misplaced or something. Somebody paid a lot of money to have the president's brain. No, that's okay. I wasn't trying to be, I'm just saying the casket was closed. I've studied this assassination for all of my life. He had two clubs, the Carousel and the Vegas Club. The Vegas Club was just a dance club. There would be ladies that would wear a little number on their shoulder here, and you would buy a book of tickets, 5 or 10 dances for $1. And then you would go take the ticket over to the lady sitting in a chair that you selected and have a dance. Organized crime, yeah, they were organized crime, and the CIA and the Secret Service and the FBI, they were all covert. They all worked to kill him. The Bay of Pigs, Kennedy ordered the air support to not happen, and therefore it was a complete massacre. Yeah, those folks were kind of upset. The Kennedy administration worked with the mafia to have Castro killed. And there's documents from J. Edgar Hoover that said the reason Maryland, one reason, and you can Google all of this stuff, there was a memo from J. Edgar before Marilyn was killed, and Marilyn Monroe, and because she had slept with Jack, Bobby, Peter Lawford, hell, half of Washington. J. Edgar Hoover said Marilyn, there was a nickname, I forgot what the letters were for Marilyn, knows about the Castro plot. And it didn't work. There's an exploding cigar. They were going to put something in his beard or something that would poison him. Why would the mafia do that? Because Castro, when Castro took power in Cuba in '59 from Batista, he let the mob operate those casinos for about 8 months. Then he closed them down and took all the slot machines out and tore them up in the parking lots. So the Kennedys, and I'm not sure if there was a go-between. It wasn't between Jack. It was probably Bobby Kennedy and somebody in the mob, Sam Giancana or somebody. He said, y'all kill Castro and we'll let y'all operate your casinos down there. That's when we were still nation building, which we're still nation building today. Gordon is in. Got a lot of people in today. We got 16 on the Metroplex feed and 104 on the South Texas feed. That's a lot of folks for 7:30 in the morning. You know, I correlate, we're no closer today than the day that it happened. Same with the 3 missing girls. There's been no definitive solution to that. The 3 missing girls from Seminary South, we're no closer today than we were the day that happened, December 23rd, 1974. I mean, there's just nothing. Plus, all the witnesses are basically dead, all of the people. But that open windows, y'all can throw that out. Back in those days, all those buildings downtowns they were not air conditioned, so all those windows were open. They had wire mesh screens that were screwed in from the outside. You know, everybody's got a theory, but that's all it is a theory. Now, my Uncle Jack White, he even proves what he says is the Zapruder film that Life magazine paid $150,000 for was fake, because there was 4 other filmings of the motorcade that day. And so what Jack did was do it frame by frame, and on the sidewalk you see he's not homing in on a shooter. He's saying, okay, on this frame there's 3 women, 2 men, a dog, or whatever. But these other 4 shots that are also, some of them were the same as the Zapruder film, they would be a different group of people on that sidewalk. Those 4 matched, the Zapruder film didn't. So Jack said the Zapruder film was fake. You can get all of Jack's stuff on YouTube at JackWhite /JFK. He's studied it ever since it happened. Him and Jim Mars, they went all over the world doing talks. But they'll never find out who did it. He was the first president assassinated after the Secret Service was tasked with protecting the president. When the Secret Service was formed, Abraham Lincoln signed it into law a day before or 2 days before he was assassinated. They were not to protect the president. in 1865, over half of the currency in the United States was counterfeit. We had Union money, Southern money. I mean, it was all phony money. Some of these presses would print one side of a $5 bill and the other side would be blank. And merchants would say, well, I guess they ran out of ink. Yeah, I'll take it. So it wasn't until Teddy Roosevelt was the first president that he demanded Secret Service. And it was 2 agents, and nobody was tasked with protecting the family. And in fact, they weren't tasked for protecting the president 24/7. They went to work at 8 or 9 in the morning, got off at 5, and after that, he's on his own. But Jack Kennedy was the first president to be assassinated. He was the 4th president assassinated. And he was the first after the Secret Service was tasked with protecting the president. God, I can go on for hours about JFK. It's fascinating, but, you know, all of the players are dead. We know somebody killed him because we all saw it. Well, how can you that was not to overthrow the government. There was no plans to decapitate the rest of the cabinet or the vice president or anything like that. The first time that really happened, where the Secret Service and the powers that be thought that they were trying to decapitate the government, besides Lincoln's assassination, they were supposed to kill the vice president, the president, and the Secretary of State, Seward. But after that, there was, yes. Yeah, I'm writing a book right now. Not making a lot of headway, but on chapter 3, well, I'm writing down notes and stuff, and then a ghostwriter is going to put it together. And it's going to be done in decades. Not going to go way back on my past. It's going to be from basically 66 till 86. 20 years of living the wrong way. Gordon is in, which was I associated with the outfit in Kansas City, the Savellas. My grandfather was the Macios. Three crime families. Anyway, I got to get out here and get started as soon as it warms up. I'd love to talk about it forever. We're going to, we need to put a group of people that want to sit down and have discussions about the Kennedy assassination or the 3 missing girls. I still think that 3 missing girls deal will be solved in some people's minds. It had to be part of the family. One of the families has to be. There's no way you could get a 14-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 9-year-old. Even if you're holding a gun or a knife, one of them's going to go. If you grew up in the era that we did, the girls back in those days were just as tough as the guys. So trying to get 3 girls, which are probably scared to death, they know something's bad going to happen, they're going to take off running. I mean, that's the 2 interviews I did with Rusty Arnold recently, just before around Christmas. There's no motive. It wasn't. They didn't kidnap him for ransom or any of that. And there's only one piece of evidence: that letter. The envelope and the letter is the only piece of evidence ever. So here again, people's ideas about the three missing girls. It's all whatever you choose you want to believe. How early does my memory go back? Till times of 5 or 6 years old, then it goes away. But then from age 8 until 9, I can almost recall it to the minute. Sometimes that's scary. Missy's in. One of my sons does have a IQ of 162. In fact, he works for Elon Musk. Ginger, good morning. I met Jimmy Pearsall when we had the clothing store on Berry, and Brad Corbett had hired him to be his advisor to baseball. So Jimmy Pearsall lived in Hyannisport, Massachusetts, and the day that Jack Kennedy was assassinated, he played golf with President Kennedy's mother. And I talked to Jimmy about it in the 80s. Jana's in, Martha's in. The stamp on the letter for the three missing girls, Rusty Arnold said there was no DNA. I've talked to people that say that's impossible. Everybody licked a stamp back in the 70s. The handwriting, I don't know. Rusty says that the handwriting on the envelope was done different than the handwriting on the letter. And if that letter, being the only clue, was something to do with some foreign group or whatever, serial killers, why would they write a letter to try to screw up the investigation? The letter, to me, makes it think like it had to be a family member. They're trying to throw them off. And we did have a lady on our group. Her name was Val, and I don't want to say her last name. She passed in 2022. She was the caseworker that went to Rusty's house. And she told me, I've got the text messages still. She told me that she was at that house at least once a month and sometimes every other week. Ima's in. So there's no motive for why would somebody just up and grab three teenage girls, or one 9-year-old, one 14, and one 17-year-old. There's no. I don't buy the sex slavery deal. That's out. So why would somebody do that? It has to be somebody that held a grudge. My thoughts is those three girls never left Fort Worth. They're somewhere in the ground here. I don't know. I don't know why the pink outfit that Jackie was wearing has never been cleaned. It's in the National Archives, and the Kennedy family stipulated that it not be shown to public till the year 2103, which is 78 years from now. I mean, where the blood spot was, or where there was a large amount of blood, that has got to be a hole in that fabric. It was a Chanel dress. And she wore it that day while that was being filmed, even at Parkland and all of that, because she said, quote, I want them to see what they've done to Jack. Is the Kennedy assassination going to be in my book? A little bit, not much. Just tied to my uncle, who was the photographic expert on the Warren Commission. The mob, the war machine in Fort Worth and Dallas, y'all have to remember the president had put a pull-out date on Vietnam. He said, this thing's over. I'm bringing our people home. The night of the assassination, when they got back to D.C., President Johnson then they were walking through the White House, and he said, I need 2 witnesses on a bill I'm going to sign. And the bill he signed reversed the pullout of Vietnam. So the hub of war machinery was right here. Patricia's in. Fred Korth, that's another story. Fred is no longer with us. He was the president, CEO of Continental National Bank. He was also assistant secretary to the Army in 53 and 4 under Eisenhower. And Jack Kennedy appointed him Secretary of the Navy in 62. What Fred's role was, he was a lawyer by trade, and in 1948, his famous divorce case was he got a divorce for a guy named Ekdahl, who was married then to Marguerite Oswald. So when all of this assassination stuff came up, Lee Harvey had written a letter from jail trying to get Fred Korth to help him. Well, let me take that back. He didn't write it from jail. Lee Harvey was originally honorably discharged. Then, when all of this stuff came up, he was dishonorably discharged, so it was from jail. Lee Harvey wrote Fred Korth a letter asking him to help to get his status back as a honorable discharge. It might not have been from jail. Anyway, that letter existed, and Fred Korth never responded to it. And Fred Korth had to step down as the Secretary of the Navy in 62 because there was a scandal brewing that he handed Billy Saul Estes, or he handed LBJ a briefcase with $200,000, whatever, to get the Aardvark contract, the F-111 for General Dynamics. Boeing had underbid General Dynamics by lots of money, and still GD got the contract. So they said that Fred Korth brokered that deal between Billy Saul and his protege, Bobby Baker, and they paid LBJ off, which LBJ, I'm sure, got paid off on a lot of stuff. If you don't, the scandal of Duval County, LBJ lost that Senate race. They'd already announced he lost, and some farmer comes up in a stake bed truck and said, hey, I found this voting box out here on the side of the road. Just happened that every one of the votes was for Lyndon. That was a scandal of Duval County. Sharon is in. Have I found a florist yet? No. You know one? We need a florist. So I think they acted together. I think the CIA, the Secret Service, the FBI, and the Mafia all worked together hand in hand to get rid of Jack Kennedy. They were told to stand down. You can see the photo when he's going like that to the Secret Service guys when they landed at Love Field and got the motorcade. The runners started running with the car. You can Google all this stuff and see it. And one of the guys said, "Stand down." So there went the protection. Why was Jackie was climbing on the trunk? There's two theories. The Secret Service guy that was in charge of Jackie's detail, said that she was escaping bullets the Secret Service puts it out that she was trying to grab part of his brain. Why would she be doing that? I think she was trying to get away. So if she was trying to get away, that means that there was somebody shooting from the front, not from the 6th floor of the book depository Benny is in. Yeah. No. That theory's out there that there was a Secret Service guy in the front seat of the limo that just turned around and shot. Well, the magic bullet theory, I don't buy any of that. I don't think a bullet can stop, make a right turn, and turn around and come back again. I mean, that's ridiculous. The governor of Texas said himself that there was more shots fired than what they said. They just went with the theory that best fit their thinking of that day. And they had all of the major CIA, FBI, Secret Service, they were all in on it. So the mob, all of them, they just wanted him out. Jack should have never came to Texas, but he had to have Texas to win the election. He had to have Lyndon. And like I say, they hated each other with a passion. Debbie is in. Okay, there's your history lessons this morning. Go check Rex Benson's Rex's Bar and Grill out. Wednesday, they're going to start serving drinks and stuff. Lunch starts next week. And we are going to have our birthday party there this year, and our boxing in Cowtown event will be at Rex's Bar and Grill. It's in the old Macaroni Grill, same parking lot as his other business, Old South. Do not know where we're eating yet. Hadn't even thought about it. The Carousel and the Vegas Club, that was the 2 clubs he owned. Okay, boys and girls, I got to start doing something productive. I will see y'all probably about an hour.